largest vehicles in the world are mostly large ships like aircraft carriers or large planes like the Airbus A380. You may not have known that there are several land-based vehicles that are also absolutely massive. Join me for today's video as we take a look at the top 15 biggest land vehicles in the world. Number 15. LeTourneau L2350. When it comes to earth movers, LeTourneau L2350 is often considered to be one of the world's largest, with the ability to lift about 70 tons of material, which for reference is the equivalent of about 30 cars. It's an insanely strong piece of machinery, and its overall weight of 235 tons puts it right up there as being one of the largest land vehicles of all time. In terms of dimensions, its height of 4 meters and width of about 1.5 meters makes it pretty impressive, and its bucket is so large that it's capable of holding the equivalent of 5 standard dump trucks. In order to haul itself around, it relies on a 16-cylinder, 65-liter diesel engine that puts out around 2,300 horsepower, and its fuel tank only holds a hefty 4,000 liters of fuel in order to operate on a daily basis. Number 14. The world's longest train. Achieving a world record is a great way to get some publicity, and that's exactly what the company BHP Iron Ore decided to do when, on June 21st of 2011, they assembled the longest train on the planet. Made to travel between the Yandi Mine and Port Hedland in Western Australia, the train was 7.29 kilometers long and carried 82,000 metric tons of iron ore. For reference, that would be like carrying 400 Statues of Liberty on a single vehicle. In order to pull off this feat, a total of 682 cars were used, and in order to move it forward, the train required a total of 8 General Electric diesel locomotives, making the total gross weight to come out just a tad under 100,000 metric tons. When you further consider that despite all this weight, the train was driven for 273 kilometers, it's not hard to see why this record was so impressive. Number 13. Caterpillar 797B. If you happen to work in a large mine, there's a chance that you've come face to face with the Caterpillar 797B. It's considered to be one of the world's largest trucks. This monstrosity comes in at 623 tons and measures in at 15 meters in height and 15 meters in length. For reference, that's about as tall as 3 fully grown giraffes and about as heavy as 100 fully grown African elephants. Powered by a super strong 3,700 horsepower engine, this monstrous machine is able to lift loads of up to 360 tons, which it can then shovel into its large cargo bed. While this makes them invaluable at many mines, it should be noted that they're also quite expensive, as they cost about $5 million each, and at current gas prices about $8,000 to refuel. As such, this massive mine truck certainly takes a toll on both the rocks at mines and the pockets of mine owners. Number 12. The Terex RH400. While many of the vehicles on this list are impressive, the Terex RH400 is the only one to have found its way onto the silver screen. Built by the company Terex, it's primarily used in mines where it excavates dirt and rock material in order to help miners dig down to high-value deposits. Coming in at a length of 11 meters and a height of 10 meters, the RH400 is absolutely massive, although it's the weight of 900 tons and bucket capacity of 50 cubic meters that really takes it over the edge. Now, in order to haul all of this heft around, the RH400 relies on a super powerful 16-cylinder 4,500 horsepower engine, and it has an absolutely crazy 16,000-liter fuel capacity in order to function as well. In fact, it is so impressive that it even made its way onto the Transformers, where it was the alternate mode of the Decepticon Scavenger. This vehicle truly is a star in both the film and mining communities. Number 11. The American Dream. It's the dream of many American immigrants to one day be driven around in a limo, and the American Dream makes that desire larger than life. Coming in at just under 30 meters long, it's approximately 10 times longer than a standard limousine, and it has an interior that can not only fit a total of 75 passengers, but also has some luxurious inclusions such as a large waterbed, a swimming pool, a diving board, a jacuzzi, a bathtub, a mini golf course, several television sets, a refrigerator, and even a helipad. While all of these features have to be jam-packed to fit inside the limo, they're all functional, and the whole thing came into existence thanks to the efforts of a certain Jay Orberg. It was built in Burbank, California back in 1986, and it took a total of 6 Eldorado limousines stacked together in order to make it. And while it has been updated since its original build day, it still has its 1970s and 80s-esque charm. Therefore, I definitely wouldn't pass up the chance to take a ride in this thing, if I was ever given the opportunity. Number 10. NASA Crawler Transporters. Whenever NASA makes a large spaceship or rocket, they face the daunting task of not just launching it, but physically transporting the monstrous vehicle to the launch site. Since even one bump or scratch can radically change the configuration of a ship, NASA has 2 crawler transporters in order to make the journey as smooth as possible. They were completed in 1965 at a cost of about $14 million each. The 2 crawlers, which are nicknamed Hans and Franz, measure in at about 40 meters in length, 35 meters in width, and over 6 meters in height. And at the time of construction, they were the largest self-propelled land vehicles in the world. Primarily used to transport space shuttles from 1981 to 2011, in order to operate, they required 30 engineers, technicians, and drivers on hand in order to reach the launch site, making it a mission in and of itself to use them. Regardless, considering how important they are to NASA's space program, I doubt they'll be replacing them anytime soon. Number 9. The Bagger 288. Built by German company Krupp, the Bagger 288 is a bucket wheel excavator, allowing companies to practice strip mining, which is the process of clearing out the entire surface of an area looking for coal. It goes without saying that these machines are pretty controversial. Regardless, the Bagger 288, which was contracted by the mining firm Rheinbraun, is certainly a moneymaker. That's because despite costing over $100 million to make, it can excavate over 220,000 tons of coal overburden on a daily basis, which is the equivalent of 2,400 coal wagons. To put it into perspective, that would be like digging a football field that's 30 meters deep, and this is all facilitated thanks to its digging head, which is 21 meters in diameter, and it has an insanely large array of 18 buckets. Each of these buckets can hold 6.6 cubic meters of material and collects coal thanks to an excavator that's over 220 meters long and 96 meters high. As a result, while not being portable, the Bagger 288 facilitates the largest coal transportation operation in the world, leading to thousands of trucks being put on German roads and millions of dollars being pumped into the economy on a daily basis. Number 8. Boeing 727 Jet Limo. The Boeing 727 jet is known for being one of the world's largest planes, and so it makes sense that its converted limousine form is also pretty massive. It was created back in 2004 by Mexican limo company Vaca Limousines. It was essentially half of a plane that had its wings and tail taken off, and then was connected to a Mercedes bus. For a while, the company would loan it out for 3 hours at a rate of $1,000. For a while, the company would loan it out for a rate of $1,000 for every 3 hours, advertising that despite being 16 meters long and 22 tons, it was still completely street legal and able to reach speeds of up to 200 kilometers an hour. If that wasn't enough, the interior is super luxurious, as it has enough space for 40 people and features a sunken lounge and living room, a large television, full bar, and a fireplace. Yet despite its novelty, it was ultimately put up for sale on eBay in 2007, where it was purchased by a certain Limo Bob for a price of $275,000. Nowadays, it can be rented out on the streets of Los Angeles for a price of $100,000 per month. Although if you really love this cool ride, Limo Bob is willing to sell the vehicle to anyone who's willing to fork over $1 million. It's a little steep. Number 7. Bigfoot 5. While monster trucks can do everything from front flips to massive jumps, each and every one is known for being extremely big. And while Gravedigger and Snakebite are some of the most famous in the industry, the truck that comes out on top for being the largest of them all is Bigfoot 5. First driven in 1979 after a man by the name of Bob Chandler decided to heavily modify his Ford F-250 pickup. By 1979, the modifications were so extensive that the truck came to be regarded as the first monster truck. And I think it's quite fitting that one of the largest monster trucks ever was in fact one of the first ones ever. Coming in at 4.6 meters in length and sporting 3-meter tall tires, the truck is absolutely massive, while its weight of approximately 34 tons makes it about as heavy as 7 African elephants. In order to move, it employs the help of 2 Duramax diesel engines, 2 transmissions, multiple transmission coolers, and a chain-driven drop box that's a meter thick and far larger than an average pickup truck. To top this off, it has the horn of a decommissioned battleship and 12 75-meter travel shocks, making this impressive truck a true marvel of human engineering. Number 6. A Dodge Power Wagon Replica. While it may seem strange that a replica of a vehicle would outperform its genuine cousin, this Dodge Power Wagon replica may just be that exception. That's because it was commissioned by a certain Hamad bin Hamdan Al Nahyan, who was a wealthy man from Abu Dhabi that received the nickname Rainbow Sheik after buying 7 brand new Mercedes 500 SEL cars and getting them painted the 7 colors of the rainbow. As you can probably tell, this extravagant rich sheik is not scared to splash his cash, and he used quite a bit of it to create a supersized truck. More specifically, he took the design of the 1950 Dodge Power Wagon pickup and changed all of its parts so they would be 64 times larger than their real-life proportions, with this being done in a nod to Abu Dhabi's 1950s-era oil boom. The end result was a massive vehicle that weighs over 50 tons, yet perhaps the coolest thing about it is the fact that it's also a luxury villa. That's because it has a total of 4 air-conditioned bedrooms along with a full-size kitchen, several bathrooms, and a lounge, with the tailgate of the car also having the ability to be lowered down to create a patio that overlooks the Abu Dhabi desert when driving through the area's famous sand dunes. So I think you're going to agree with this one. The vehicle is truly one of a kind. Number 5. The Panzer VIII Maus Tank. While most World War II technology has become obsolete, the Panzer VIII Maus tank is a design that still captures the imagination of military vehicle enthusiasts. That's because despite being about 80 years old, this massive vehicle would have hypothetically won the record for being the world's largest tank. Now, while the designs for this vehicle were technically finished in 1944 and a total of 5 were ordered, only 2 hulls and 1 turret were ever completed before the testing grounds were captured by advancing Soviet military forces, putting an end to its ambitions. But by all accounts, this thing would have been crazy. Designed with the intention of having the tank punch holes through enemy fortifications, it certainly had the size to be competent in that role, as the one complete prototype that was made measured in at 10.2 meters in length, 3.7 meters in width, and 3.6 meters in height, and had a total weight of 188 tons. Now, its main armament was a Krupp-designed 128mm gun, and by all accounts, it was strong enough to destroy all Allied armor fighting vehicles in service at that time. However, the Maus's main issue was that it was difficult to develop an engine and drivetrain that was large enough to propel this thing forward, but small enough to fit inside of it. Nevertheless, the Germans eventually managed to do this, yet the difficulty in implementation in this unwieldy large tank concept was scrapped by the victorious powers. Number 4. The Heat. Will Smith is easily one of Hollywood's most interesting characters, and it's thanks to his humor and acting skills that he's had an extremely successful acting career. Given his wealth, it makes sense that he's splurged quite a bit, and some of that splurging has been put towards his $2.5 million motorhome. Known as the Heat, this 1,200 square foot vehicle is considered to be the largest RV in the world and makes use of the space by fitting in nearly every luxury imaginable. Designed by Florida-based company Anderson Mobile Estates, Smith uses it as a home away from home while working on films, and so it had to be quite comfortable to meet his high expectations. More specifically, the first floor features a lit makeup mirror with built-in television, offices for Smith's assistants, a full-service kitchen, a $25,000 bathroom with automated windows that turn opaque on command, and Star Trek-like doors that make a distinct space-age swoosh sound when they open and close. The pop-up second floor can also be used if more space is needed, and it has automated shades, 3 televisions, and a business lounge up there. Beyond its interior, even its power source is pretty crazy, as it's hauled around from place to place by a semi-tractor. Best of all, while owning a vehicle like the Heat is certainly out of the question for most, it's more accessible than you might think, as when he's not using it, he rents it out for a relatively reasonable $9,000 per week. Number 3. The Belaz 757-10. Alright, it goes without saying that dump trucks are massive vehicles, but it turns out that the largest one on the planet doesn't come from the United States, Canada, or Western Europe, but of all places from Belarus. First coming into operation in October of 2014, the vehicle is absolutely massive, as it comes in at 20 meters in length and 8.2 meters in height, and can carry up to 450 tons of material at any time. For reference, this means that the vehicle is about as long as 2 double-decker buses, is about as high as 1.5 giraffes, and can lift about 75 fully grown African elephants. Now, this truck was first built in order to service Russian mining companies. It's able to do its job effectively thanks to its extraordinary amount of power. More specifically, it has 8 wheels in pairs instead of the usual 6, and its 2 16-cylinder diesel engines that drive 4 electric motors dwarf the more typical 4 or 6-cylinder engine that power most other industrial machines. In fact, this thing derives so much power from its engine that its peak torque is about 24 times that of a Formula One car. While its relatively short turning radius at about 20 meters allow it to work well in many different spaces. However, being this strong, it does have some drawbacks. After all, this fuel consumption is an estimated 1,300 liters per 100 kilometers, and it cost about $6 million to buy just one of them. However, when you consider the benefits, the Belaz purchase is a no-brainer for many large mining companies. Number 2. Big Muskie. When it comes to moving rocks and dirt, a heavy-duty vehicle is necessary to get the job done. And when it comes to size, nothing is quite as insane as Big Muskie. That's because at a weight of 12,200 tons and a height of nearly 22 stories, it's considered by many to be the largest vehicle of all time. Built by Bucyrus Erie, it took 340 rail cars and 260 trucks to ship all of its components to the factory, and it took a further 200,000 man-hours to construct the entire thing. However, after about 2 years of hard work and the modern equivalent of about $176 million in funding, it was finally completed, and at a length of 148 meters, a width of 46 meters, and a height of 68 meters, it was absolutely massive. It first entered service with the Central Ohio Coal Company in 1969, where it began to dig for coal across a 110,000-acre property. In order to scoop out sediment, it had a 170 cubic meter bucket, which was large enough to hold 2 Greyhound buses in there side by side. And in order to move around and dig dirt, it made use of 2 hydraulically driven walker feet that were powered by 18 1,000 horsepower and 10 625 horsepower electric motors. The energy expenditure of this thing was so taxing that it used the energy equivalent of 27,000 homes. Yet in spite of this, it saw a lot of use, as during its 22 years in service, Big Muskie removed more than twice the amount of earth that was moved during the construction of the Panama Canal, and uncovered over 20 million tons of Ohio brown coal. However, over time, the public began to turn away from coal energy, and by 1991 its operation was too expensive to justify the costs, which ultimately led to the machine's retirement. Number 1. The Schwerer Gustav gun. While Adolf Hitler dreamed up a large variety of strange vehicles throughout World War II, one of the craziest to actually manage to make it into fruition was the Gustav gun. First launched in 1941, it was the largest gun to ever be built, as it had a barrel length of 32 meters and a height of 11 meters, and it weighed 1,300 tons. It also had the ability to fire massive artillery pieces at a rate of about 1 every 30 to 45 minutes at a distance of up to 47 kilometers. Now, on one hand, this gun was very impressive. After all, it could fire both 4.5-ton explosive rounds and 6-ton armor piercers, both of which would deal insane amounts of damage if they hit their target. It would have also done a good job meeting its objective of fort destruction, as while it was completed too late to achieve its initial purpose of destroying the forts along the Maginot Line, it was quite effective during the siege of Sevastopol against the Soviet Union. Yet despite its upsides, the Gustav gun was ultimately too impractical to see widespread use in combat. The first major issue with the gun was that it could only be moved with specially designed tracks of 2 railway tracks, meaning that the Germans had to quickly assemble long lines of track with crew of up to 2,500 people just to get the Gustav gun from place to place. Its massive size also meant that it was an easy target for bomber planes. And as a result, at least 2,000 soldiers were needed at all times to protect the gun from air attacks. To top this off, it used massive amounts of resources, and so while it was a technological marvel, it was simply too wasteful and impractical to make sense on dynamic and changing battlefields. As such, the gun was quickly scrapped after the siege of Sevastopol was over, and while no one knows for sure, it was likely destroyed in 1945 in order to prevent it from getting into the hands of the advancing Soviet army. Watch our Vehicles playlist for more top 15 videos about amazing vehicles. Sit back, relax, and binge watch all of our best vehicle videos.